Good morning and welcome to another episode of LFF Shop Shop. This week we're back on the KE25 and we're going to try and do this front rad support. So I showed this quickly in the last episode on the KE25 and we're going to need to replace the rad support because this one has a big rusty hole in it. So that involves drilling out spot welds and doing things I haven't really done before. So we're going to have to drill out these front panels on either side and then drill out where the rad support mounts to the chassis rail, and then we'll see how we go from there. So I'm not really too sure where to start with this thing, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these caster arm brackets off and I'm going to make a brace that goes from chassis rail to chassis rail and also comes forwards to the rad support to try and triangulate everything and keep everything in the same spot. Then start chopping and drilling and hope for the best. Okay, so I've just knocked up a few little brackets. So we got one for either side of the chassis rail and 4 individual ones for the front rad support. So this is the bracket I took off the KE25. The chassis rail goes here. So as you can see, the rad support section is on 2 different angles, hence the smaller guys. And then this one here is a nice flat piece. So we've got a nice flat piece. So I'm going to bolt all these into the car, and then I need to make some RHS or some angle line or something and make all of these attach to each other and be nice and firm. So I need to make sure that when I cut this rad support out that these bolts here don't move. These are for the caster brackets, which I don't know if we're going to use those holes with the new front end, which I haven't spoken about, but I'd like to keep them in the same spot. So what I need to do is triangulate everything, and also when I cut this out I don't want the rails to pull apart from each other. So bolt it all together and then cut it, rather than cutting it and then realizing everything's moved 10 mil. So it's about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, and it's actually really cold in here. I'm doing the dragon thing, but we'll just keep digging into it and keep working on it. Alright, so I got that front end bolted together, grab some scrap out of the pile, measured this out and cut the ends on a bit of an angle. So I don't know if this is going to fit, I actually haven't tried it yet. So the idea, this bar goes in here like this on the ends of the angle line, and same on the other end. Weld that together and then run some bars forwards to the other tabs. So I'll tack this in place and work on the other bars. So I had a whinge a second ago about how cold it is. I just heard on the radio that it's 7 degrees and it's nearly 12 o'clock. It's freezing. Okay, so I've taken the top rad support off and the upright. I'm going to make a little brace for there as well, I think, because I don't want the tops of the struts to lean out. I doubt it'll be a problem, but I don't want to take any chances. So I've welded in this main crossbar. I've got these little 90 degrees and some tiny little bits of tube just to hold those two straight and together and on the correct angle, obviously. So now I just need to go from here to here and then fully weld everything. So I'm going to make 2 little brackets either side, so one here and one up that end, and then the same on this side. So 4 little brackets from this guy, and then have to fully weld everything. And then I'll make a bar that goes across here to here, and maybe something to pick up on this as well, because I don't want anything to move. Okay, so I've got the crossbar welded in, the little standoffs, whatever you call them. I said triangulate, this is clearly a square, don't call me out on that. But that's in place, so these aren't going to move anywhere and they're going to stay in the same relationship to those ones over there. So that's good. I need to weld this fully, probably in the car, or at least most of it in the car, and then let it cool down so it doesn't warp too much. So what I'm going to do is probably weld that and make this top bar go across, and then I need to somehow pick up on this bolt here because that's for the front upright rad supporty thing. So I'm going to think about that and work out a way to do it. Oh boy, this is probably one of the uglier things I've made, but in this case, function over form. So it's all joined together now. Got this bar coming through the front, which I've also done a right angle, which was supposed to be a little bit longer, but I stuffed that up. And then I've got a 90-degree piece of angle coming up to this bolt here. So hopefully that should keep it all nice and square. I'm going to make this top piece now from side to side. And then while I'm doing that, this can cool down. And then once that top piece is done, the bottom should be nice and cool. I'll take it off, flip it over, weld the other side, and then bolt it all back together. Make sure it all still fits, and then we can actually start cutting, which is, it's been like 3 hours at this point, and we're not even at the cutting stage yet. So I'll just take a second to show you what we're working on. So this is the top brace to hold those two front panels square. You can see that I stuffed up and the holes are too big, or not in the right spot. So they're on a funny angle, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. And a little hat tip to vice grip garage, drinker's side, driver's side, and this side's also bad. So what I've done is I made some other little plates with the bolt holes the correct spacing apart. Put those on top of here and I can get it all square, or in the right spot, and then I'll tack these to this, and then the bracket will be a whole lot better. So this gives me an idea to show you a technique I learned a long time ago. So say you have 3 holes like this strut top, and you want to get a bolt pattern off of this. So obviously this one's equal, so it's easy. But if it was difficult, what you can do is get 3 pieces of flat bar, drill 1 hole in each piece of flat bar, bolt them into place, and then swing them around until they touch each other, and then weld them all together. So you end up with like a really janky looking 3 or 4 pieces of angle iron that are all welded together. But when you take it off, you can transfer that to your new steel and then drill through the janky holes and get a better result. So that's what I should have probably done here. Made this in multiple pieces and then just transferred it across. Probably would have been quicker, but in this case what I'm going to do is drill this. These do fit on the car. It's 5.5 on one side and 4.5 on the other, which is really annoying. So bolt these on here and then just weld them to this guy, and then that piece is done as well. So pretty quick and easy. Got the plates on top of the main bar, all screwed in. Another good tip is to put all the bolts in first, just really loosely, get everything lined up and make sure all the bolts fit, and then screw them down, or tighten them up, sorry. So all done on this side and that side. So this is probably not going to come off until that is finished anyway, but what I'm going to do is just weld these 2 plates together just so nothing moves, because I'm paranoid about this thing becoming a taco, if you hadn't noticed by the massive ridiculous jig. So just tack that, and then I'll pull this bottom frame out, weld that, and then I can actually start cutting. Alright, so I finally got the rad support off. So I've never done anything to quite this length before. You can see the rot that we cut out, and inside as well, which is not going to focus, is super rusty. This end's not too bad, which is probably the better of the 2 ends, and this end is pretty rotten the whole way out. So a good thing we got rid of all of it. And flipping over, you can see this bit's pretty mangled as well, and it all needs to go, so that's pretty good. So the next thing is putting this back in. So before I do that, I need to clean this up a bit. So the end of the rails are a little bit rusty, so I'll buzz that back. And there's rust in the rail, like as in loose rust, so I'll blow all that out. And then this side I've already sort of blown it off, but I haven't cleaned it up yet. So I'll clean it all up and then I'll start trying to fit those new pieces. So first spanner in the works, I've cut that bar out and started cleaning stuff up. As you can see, I've cut a section of the front faceplate out because there's a bit of rust in there. So it's not horrible, but I'd like to address it before I weld anything back in. So I was planning on getting this engine bay sandblasted or aquablasted anyway. So I think what I'll do is leave that open, which I don't like the idea of, but leave that open until it's been sandblasted and then weld the new one back in. So it's a bit of a pain for right now and I have to move on to something else, but the other side's actually pretty good. But I don't want to put that back together with rust, like obvious rust right there. So we'll have to do something else for now. And I think once I get it cleaned out, I'll probably cap this as well because it doesn't seem like a great idea and the new front doesn't actually cap it very well. So I might just put a plate in there and cap that. Try and keep it a bit better for the next 50 years, I guess. So the next problem would probably be the firewall, which I don't want to do until I've got the engine in the right spot. And I know how much clearance I needed to make. So I guess I'll just tackle this now. So I'm gonna have to build a plate for there. All right, so a bit of a stopping point for the episode, unfortunately, but we're gonna have to leave it there until I can get this sandblasted or aquablasted. Adelaide's currently in lockdown for another couple of days, so I'm gonna have to move on to something else. Next week I'll probably try and do the fuel cell, which should be here any day now, but because of lockdown it's taken a bit longer. And then also that piece of rust where the battery tray was, I need to fix that at some point as well. So thanks heaps for watching and we'll see you next week.